Mic check. Mic check. Was it not playing? How many audio? Can you hear me? Can't tell. Can't tell if we're live or not. I think we're live. Just not sure the audio is working here. Computer is having all kinds of issues. Can you hear me? So weird. For some reason, it doesn't show that I have audio, but whatever. It's working. All right, perfect. What's good? This is the first ever member stream, right? So only you guys who support the channel paying $5. I know other people support channel as well, but the people who really, really support the channel by paying the $5 are going to be the only ones who are allowed basically to talk in the chat, ask questions. So if you guys have some questions, let's get into it. You got me for about an hour here. We're going to go until about 5 o'clock. We'll kind of go over what went down with today. Maybe you want to talk about overall just what's good. So you guys are a part of the elite, a part of the few, the proud, the channel supporters. So if you're watching right now and you can't comment and you want to comment and you want to say something stupid, sorry about you. Sorry about you. All right. So yeah, let's go. Let's do this. If you guys got a question, this is your time. This is the time to ask questions. Let's do it. Let's just talk about it. CMG or SureTrader? That's not really a question I can answer because both of them aren't really better than the other. So, kind of a tricky one. So another question is break down like what you determine to jump into a trade. Volume, auction. I'll show this trade here on XOG. I ended up, if you watched the live stream this morning, you would have seen that at one point I was down $1,000. Ended up getting a little bit of a battle back here. XOG, this was the stock that I had a plan. This was my stock this morning that I was like, oh, I'm going to hammer this stock. And ended up just not taking the trade this morning. If you watched the live stream, I talked about how I was looking for that push above that $10. So we had that $10 resistance there. And I was looking for kind of a bull trap there, just kind of a spike and then a drop. And that's what we got. We got that spike to 1030 on that candle. And just been going lower ever since. So that was my entry. Down here, obviously, is, the stock's down already on the day. The stock's pulled back. There's definitely a certain point where, it's just not going to go any lower. Just because the stock's heading lower, it doesn't mean it's just going to keep going lower forever. So there's going to be a chance, there's going to be a point where it's going to return, it's going to bounce back. But let's say here, so what I was looking at on XOG, we broke through that support, that 945 had that support there. We broke through that, and then I was basically just looking for this to kind of retest, to kind of pull back up there towards the EMAs. And once it pulled back up there, that was my short entry. I ended up getting all the way down to 905. I took quick profit just because I was just trying to get some green on the board. Just wanted to get a little bit of green on the board. And then later on, had this kind of overall move, kind of bouncing again up to that resistance, the EMAs, basically shorting into this resistance. That previous kind of high on this candle was 935. High there was 937. That's what I was shorting into. Ended up getting all the way down to 916, but I ended up just taking profit there and locking it down. So, the big thing when I'm looking for these shorts is I'm really just looking to short into resistance. And I'm also kind of thinking, so XOG, you might be like, ooh, why did you think to short if this thing pops above $10? So we had this big gap up. It gapped up big. It filled the gap on the chart here. You can see the daily chart up there to $10. It filled that gap. So it gapped up from $9 to $10. And then once we filled that gap, we're thinking, okay, there's a chance, this is now going to pull back. And now if you look at the chart here, you have this huge gap in the chart from 880 up there to $10. There's no real support. There's no real price action. There's no, nothing going on in that area. So those gaps a lot of times end up getting filled. A lot of people will trade off the idea that gaps basically always get filled. And, that's what we were looking for right there. Another question. Have I given any thought to mentoring? I mean, I feel like I'm mentoring right now, or at least sharing my experiences with this channel. This channel is basically my mentorship, mentoring the world. What's the next question? All the weed stocks are going higher. That's what it seems like, huh? A little weed stock action today. Nice move there on NBEV at the end of the day here. You can see up there to 540. Little weed stocker. And also, I think TLRY kind of set that tone today. Look at TLRY from 111 up there to 142. It's up 28%. I mean, 28% on a $100 stock is a massive move. I mean, that's a beautiful move, really. From the 112s up there to 140. I was basically gone all day. I went to the gym and came back. Missed out on the weed madness. But we'll see what happens tomorrow. You never know. Tomorrow, definitely keep an eye on the overall just weed stocks. You got CRON. You got MBEV. These are definitely, a little bit lower price stocks. We're looking for those moves. And we'll kind of see what happens tomorrow, Thursday. And definitely, getting that nice move here at the end of the day. It's kind of setting the tone where people are going to be excited to trade, these weed stocks. And once we get that action, that's kind of what we're looking for. After you watch the gapper list pre-market, what do you do? Normally what I'm doing when I'm just, I'm trying to make a plan. I'm looking at the stocks pre-market. Those are normally the stocks that are gapping up that we end up trading. MTSL was on top of the list today. MTSL was on top of the pre-market list. And it's funny because if you go back, I know I keep saying this, but if you go back and you watch the live stream, I talked about MTSL. I was watching kind of this downward trend. I was looking for that breakout. And we got the breakout. I just ended up not jumping in. Not sure kind of what I was doing there. But you can see once he broke out of that downward trend here, it just went to the moon. Got all the way up there at 320. And I was just a little too greedy there. A little bit too much FOMO. I was thinking we might get that pop, over $3 up there at 320, 330 area really quickly. Because it kind of just ramped up. It started really ramping there. And that's kind of what I was looking for. But just didn't get that move. And now look at it, back down there to $1.90. No shares to short. I know people were like, why don't you short MTSL? Well, it's not always that easy, is it? It's not always as easy as just shorting every stock that goes higher. So that's definitely one to keep an eye on. Hey, new member, JS Bratton. Bratton? What's good? Jeff Sessions out of AGs. Okay, that's why weed's going to the moon, I guess, right? When scaling in, does it charge you as another trade when you add? Yes. So basically, if you make a trade, let's say you buy CRON at 975, it goes lower at 960. Whatever your trade fee is, it's going to get charged. So also, depending on your ECN fees, depending really on your broker, just how it works. Luckily for me, I'm basically trading per share. So if I buy 1,000 shares at 975 and then I buy 1,000 shares at 960, it would be the same price as me basically making one trade, buying 2,000 shares there at 970, because I'm just basically paying for the shares, getting in and out per trade, if that makes sense. So, if I'm paying, per share and I buy 1,000 shares at 975, and then I buy 1,000 shares at 960, I'm getting hit for the per share, basically. That's one of the good things about trading kind of per share. A lot of the brokers will have that option where you can set it up so you're basically just paying per share. There'll be a minimum. A lot of times they'll have a minimum, $2 or $1 or whatever it is, that minimum. But that's one thing. Now, if you have a broker that's charging, $7 per trade, no matter how many shares you're taking, that's going to be a little bit different because they're going to hit you a little harder there, a little differently. Do I always jump into trades if a bull or bear flag is spotted? No, I don't. At least the last 2 days, I've been just totally ignorant of bull flag and bear flags. Been doing the exact opposite. Another question is, what do you think about Clay's risk management? Slow entry style. Seems to me he eats his profits by not knowing his entries exits. Yeah, I'm not going to comment on that. I've seen Clay do some pretty funny things. Like he ends up, basically trading like $100,000 worth of a stock and making $50. hey, I mean, whatever it works for him, that's his style. You know, he could probably say the same thing about my style. It's terrible. Either way, I don't know. I don't know about the whole idea of just basically averaging and averaging until you're in the green $50. It just seems like a weird way to trade. I don't know. Maybe it works for him, I guess. If you can just keep averaging down to the point where, you know, you're in the green, I guess you can do it. But I don't know. I don't know about that. All right, so another question here is entry points after breakouts. So let's try to figure out. I think MTSL was a pretty good kind of example of that. I think, like I said, that entry point this morning was really that breakout of that downward trend. You can see once it broke out of that downward trend, it was off to the races. And let's see kind of just where my entry would have been here. So I think, you know, once we pulled back at open, we pulled back down there to the 196 and then popped back up. And you can see, you know, pre-market, this was trending lower, and then bam, we popped up there to 230. So I think really, you know, you could have bought here for the breakout over that downward trend if you wanted to do that. But I think probably in this 215, I think I actually talked about it. I was trying to buy there a little bit lower, but this was kind of the entry there. Once you see how, okay, we pop up here, we find some resistance. Now we're kind of bouncing there. Even if you didn't get filled, you know, at 218, I think you know, just kind of looking for those EMAs and looking for those EMAs to turn into support. It's one of the reasons I'm using the EMAs. You know, I got the 9 EMA, I got the 20 EMA, and I got the VWAP on there. And you can see once this pulled back down there, pulled back to the 9 EMA, the VWAP, it showed the support was there. Look at the bottom of these candles. The bottom of these candles, really good sign as well. So you have you have a selling pressure here, but bam, it gets pushed back up. So it gets sold off, the buyers step in, and they push the price right back up there. So when you see the bottom of these candles like that, it's a good sign because you're seeing buyers stepping in. And you can see again, once the stock pulled back over here to the 224 area, the buyer stepped in again. And you can see the bottom of these candles, getting these almost like a little hammer right there, a little hammer on that. You know, there's a lot of basically you can spend years learning, you know, just about candle formation and candle structure and all that. But it's kind of just the overall move there. Kind of the same thing here. You got MTSL up there to the 250s. It pulls back. You know, where's your entry going to be here? You can set it like this. A lot of times, this is kind of what I'll do sometimes. It's kind of looking at, okay, we got the downward trend, and now we got the support down there. Okay, now we broke out of that downward trend. We got the first kind of green candle to make kind of a new high after these candles. So then I'm looking to jump in this area there at 230. It's funny because now in hindsight, it's like, what was I doing today? I don't know. I think a lot of times I just maybe just get too crazy looking at all kinds of different crazy stocks. When there is a breakout, any way to know how high it will go up? Obviously, just depends, really. So looking at MTSL, if I'm trading MTSL, I'm looking how the stock is moving. I'm seeing that it's moving, 10, 20, 30 cents, and then pulling back. That's kind of what I'm looking at. So, looking at the bigger picture, I'm looking at where that next resistance is. So we got 240 as the next resistance once it popped up there. And I think if we go back here, we'll see that 240 ended up being resistance. So look at this. Bam. We got resistance right there at the 240 area, a little bit higher than 240, but in that area. So if I'm jumping in there for the break over, the $2 down the downward trend there, I can see on the daily chart that we have previous resistance there at 240. So that'll give me an idea of my range of kind of what I'm looking for in just the overall move and where that next resistance is going to be. You could trade this basically buying there, trying to sell into that resistance and then looking for the pullback, even if you think it's going to go higher. Because there's always going to be opportunities. I've seen a lot of times, I'll be in a trade, the stock goes higher, it pulls back. I could have taken profit when it went higher and then jumped in again on the pullback and then kind of rode that, those waves. So you got to kind of be thinking about that sometimes. What do you think of the ACB as a swing trade? I'm not really going to, I don't really know about getting into, individual stocks kind of overall, but we'll take a look here. I mean, it's hard, sitting here and looking obviously at this is like, okay, where do I think it's going to go now? Swing trades can be tricky. I think right now it looks like ACB's kind of stuck at that, previous resistance there at the $8 area. It is kind of curling up here. You can see the EMAs on the daily chart kind of curling up, but just not sure I want to be buying right there as a swing trade. I I'd probably be looking to buy a little bit lower, just kind of at that support area, you know, looking at the daily chart. You can see this trend here. Definitely got a little trend going. So you kind of see it's kind of breaking out, kind of that ascending triangle there, getting above the EMAs. So maybe tomorrow, kind of seeing where it opens at, and if it can pull back, you know, maybe down here into the 7s again. And for that push, we'll see. I mean, it's hard. It's hard. It's really hard. And then also you got to kind of think about, you know, what is the stock doing? Does it has news coming out? You know, why? What's your theory on why the stock would go higher? I guess that's kind of the best thing to think about when you think about that. Do you have to cancel orders that don't get filled? Yes. You'll have to cancel the orders that don't get filled. Another question. How is margin charged at your broker? Say you had $10,000. They give you $40,000 worth of buying power, and you use all 40 on that trade. That last 5 minutes. How is that billed for margin? So most brokers will give you margin, and as long as it's intraday, as long as you're trading in and out on the day, you won't be charged. Now, if you hold that stock overnight, if you're holding the stock overnight, stuff like that, you might have some problems. And it depends on your broker. It really just depends on what that margin rate is, what they're charging you overnight to hold, and stuff like that. And a lot of times the brokers will have kind of restrictions. So if you only have $10,000 and they're giving you 4 times buying power, they might tell you, hey, overnight you only have 2 times buying power. So you got to make sure you read the rules. A lot of these brokers have a lot of fine print. Because remember, these brokers are basically trying to make money off of you making trades. Now, not that they're against you, but at the end of the day, their game is basically to charge you as many fees and as many commissions and all that stuff as possible, because the more they can charge you, the more money they make. So you got to make sure you understand the rules when it comes down to your actual broker and understanding the fees, the rules, and all that. SureTrader is definitely one of those brokers that has a lot of fees and a lot of things, little fine print. So you got to make sure that you read the fine print when it comes down to your broker. Do you look for certain patterns to trade, or are you just watching the price action and volume? I mean, we're definitely looking for patterns overall. We're looking, you know, for stocks to that have strength, I guess you could say. The stocks overall that have, you know, bullish momentum. But the big thing for me really is just volume, momentum, CRON. You can see that nice move there from $9 up to $9.95. This is also one of those weird stocks too, because let's say you know the stock this had news. At the end of the day, the whole market kind of rallied. The weed stock started rallying. So it's hard to predict that all of a sudden we're going to get that big spike in volume. So if you're sitting there all day long and you're watching CRON and then all of a sudden, bam, it's spiking, you don't really know why, and you got to figure out quickly, you know, why is it spiking, and then kind of looking for the opportunity. You can see, had that big spike up there at 950, pulled back down into the VWAP, down to the EMAs, and then made the move higher. So that's always a good sign. You want to see solid pullbacks, you know, this trend. Look at this trend here. You know, it's trending higher, all the way to 980, and then finally breaks the trend and pulls back. So you got to make sure if you're buying the dip, you're buying the dip on the trend, if that makes sense, you know. Kind of the same thing on the 5-minute chart, just looking. That's why I can't talk. One of the reasons that I use the EMAs is because the moving averages are basically going to be, you know, the average, you know, price that the stock is moving, and it's going to give you kind of that range. And a lot of times people are trading off that. So you're thinking everybody out there is also trading off of those EMAs. Hey, what's up? Welcome, Bram. New member. What do you think? What do you look for in dip buys versus washout? What do you look for to determine that it's a dip that will reverse? So I think we just kind of covered that. When you're buying the dip, you're trying to look for the dip to pull back to support that's on the trend, you know, that trend line. I'm looking for support and following that trend. So like we said, we had the VWAP, we had the EMAs, we had this big overextended move. The stock pulls back down here to 920, which we had the VWAP, we had, you know, this earlier little bit of resistance there at the 920, 930 area. So this is kind of, you know, the dip buy here, buying the dip and then seeing the rip there. Now, it's hard because let's say the stock gets up here now. All right, so now you can see, you know, overall the trend has changed. We're making these higher lows, making these moves up there to 995. The trend breaks down. This is a 1-minute chart. The trend breaks down, and now the trend is changing. So, you know, buying the dip here at 960 can be a little dangerous, because now we could have some resistance and this thing could kind of start to pull back, and if it can't hold on the 5-minute chart. So I'm kind of looking for the 5-minute chart, looking for the 1-minute chart, and then making sure those things are aligning. I'm looking for those buy signals to align. It's always a good thing. If you can see the entry on the 5-minute chart, you can see the entry on the 1-minute chart. If you can see the entry on the 15-minute chart, you're like, bam, I got to get this entry because it's happening. Why do I use the indicators that I use? What experience made you settle on them? I think really just the experience, seeing a lot of kind of what other traders are using. I think almost every kind of trader, momentum trader, is using the EMAs. A lot of the courses out there are teaching people how to trade with EMAs. So what I'm basically looking for is the idea that if I'm buying at that support, at that EMA area, there's a pretty good chance that there's 1,000 other people out there who are also using very similar indicators. They're looking at the VWAP, they're looking at the EMAs, and that's the idea. You know, if I'm buying the dip, I want to be buying the dip thinking that other people are going to be buying as well. So all I'm thinking is, all right, I got the EMAs there. There's a lot of other people out there who are also using this similar EMAs, so I should be safe as long as we can hold this trend. And I'll be looking for buyers to step in there. And you can see, you know, it works. It does work. Obviously, you know, the stock, if it breaks below the EMA, you know, heads lower. This is kind of how it is. But definitely, it's a lot safer. It's a lot safer to buy the bounces off the EMAs in terms of just risk to reward. So if I'm buying that pullback to support area instead of buying, you know, when the stock's super overextended. So right here, the stock was at $9.50, $9.50. If I'm buying right there, look how far, you know, look how far off the EMAs that was. Can't pull it up here. All right, so there's the EMA. That's the 9 EMA. Got the VWAP. This thing pops up to 950. It's, you know, up 40%. It's up 40 cents, 30 cents higher than the moving averages, than the VWAP. And you can see it pulled back down there to find that support and then made the move higher. So that's the thing. If I'm buying here at 950, you know, where's my support? Where am I going to be cutting it off at? And realistically, I'm probably going to be cutting it off, you know, if I'm at the support area or if it breaks through the support area. Now, if I'm buying at the support area, I have a much better entry and I'm able to really profit. So if I'm buying here at 920, it pops back up there to 940. Okay, I just got 26 cents in profit. If I'm buying there at 950, it pulls back, it pops back up there at 950, I'm still in the red. So I'm really should be looking. I should probably watch this video after I make this video. That should be what I should do today. Just sit back later on today and just re-watch this video of me answering questions. So you wait for it to go back to the 9 EMA. Yeah, so the 9, like I said, the 9 EMA is kind of just that moving average. If the stock is strong, it's moving, you know, it's got momentum, it's really showing strength, then a lot of times that 9 EMA ends up really kind of just as like a solid trend. Here's a good one here. JONE today made a nice little move right after I got done actually on the live stream. So he popped above the VWAP here. It pulls back, kind of gets stuck in that $3 area. And you can see kind of that $3 resistance kind of holding it down. After it broke above there, had that little bit of a pullback one more time back down there. And then look how nicely this is just kind of bouncing off of that 9 EMA all the way up here at 395. And then you can see here, okay, we got that pullback, 395 to 365. You know, we're bouncing off the EMA, but the trend is now changing. You know, that's a big kind of washout. And you don't really want to see that big of a drop if you're looking to buy the dip kind of thing. Because that's from, 395 down there to 360, you know, 30, 40 cents on that drop there. A lot of people are going to end up just kind of getting out. You're adding on to the selling pressure. The shorts are going to kind of just end up loading up the boat. You know, if I'm a short and I see this big drop and now I see the stock can't recover, I'd be shorting in this area right here at the 375 with kind of that bear flag there. So it's one thing to think about. Definitely, like I said, on the 5-minute chart, it's going to be a better sign. So if the stock is really kind of showing that support, you know, it's curling up, it's really bouncing off those 9 EMAs and everything, that's what I want to be seeing on the 5-minute chart, because it's a much, obviously, you know, the 5-minute chart, looking at the 5-minute chart is going to be a little bit easier. At least, I don't know if I'd say easier, but I'd say it's going to be more consistent with getting a dip buy, with showing that support. You know, the 5-minute chart is just going to be a little bit bigger picture. I know people are going to be like, 5 minutes isn't even that crazy. If you look at the 15-minute chart, kind of the same thing. You know, obviously, if it's showing the support on the 15, you kind of got that bull flag here. It breaks above 3, and then it's off to the races, almost to $4. And you can see on the 15, just green, green, green there. But most time I'm trading the 5-minute, the 1-minute chart. Do you always create a watch list? So definitely in the morning, you know, the big thing I'm looking for is really just the gappers and kind of just going through. And normally, you know, I have multiple charts on my monitor. So I have like the chart that you're seeing a lot of times when I'm trading. That's the chart just that I'm kind of trading off of. But I've got, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 other charts pulled up down below. So if I see a stock with potential, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll pull up those stocks on those charts. So I'll have 8 stocks kind of set up, ready to go. I'll kind of draw out, where my entry might be, what my plan would be on that stock. And that's kind of what I'm doing watch list wise. What has been the single most resource that has helped you become a skillful trader? Whew. I think the biggest resource really has just been, doing it. I think there's a lot of content, there's a lot of videos out there, there's a lot of strategies, a lot of ideas. But at the end of the day, the more that you see these patterns, the more that you see these moves, it's just going to, become muscle memory. And, the FOMO is still going to win. There are going to be days where the FOMO is going to get you. But at least you can tell yourself, like, hey, I've seen this happen before. I know what's going to happen here. The stock is breaking the upside, but it's really overextended. I'm going to wait for my opportunity. And I think just at the end of the day, the best thing you can do is you figure out kind of the basics. You figure out, how to buy a stock, how to sell a stock. Get it all set up. Get everything set up. But then it's really just comes down to putting in the time and just sitting there and being there. It's not like you don't need to trade every single day. You don't need to trade every single day. But the more and more that you're in front of the computer, the easier it's going to be just to kind of see those patterns repeating. And that's one of the reasons I trade these like kind of low float stocks, because these patterns are very predictable. They happen over and over. You'll see a stock like JONE, big squeeze, and then all of a sudden, bam, it gets smacked back down. And this happens every day. It's very, very similar moves, In the morning, you get this big pop. You get all the day traders trading it. All right, well, look, now it's almost 11. And look, after 11, it's just gone. It just goes back down. But obviously, the more and more that you're just exposing yourself to trading is the better. Trying to watch all kinds of videos, watching the market, kind of just learning how stocks move, the idea that stocks move in waves, and just learn, What's the top 5 patterns or strategies you say that you need to know to trade? Like I said, I don't think there's really like 5 strategies. I don't think there's like, this is the top 5 strategies to make money. I think at the end of the day, it just comes down to having a plan in terms of, what we're looking for. We're looking for momentum. I'm just looking for momentum. Stocks that have momentum, either to the upside or the downside. And then I'm also just kind of looking for opportunities. Like I said this morning, XOG was actually, where was it? MDXG. Where's that stock? That was MDXG this morning was a stock that I really wanted to hammer it, and just had no shares, just short. But you can see MDXG gapping down there from $6.20 all the way down to $4.70. I look at the news, I can see, okay, there is something bad going on here, right? The stock just dropped in 5 minutes from $6.10 down there to $4.40. That's not a good sign. That's obviously means that there's bad news. There's something bad going on here. And now I also don't like to kind of convince myself in terms of like, okay, I need a short right now. But if I'm looking at this chart, I kind of see, okay, the stock's pulled back. It's a little bit of a bounce. But what's the news? Okay, the news is out. It's not good news. So I'm thinking the stock is still going to go lower. So my short opportunity this morning would have been up here at the 485, 485, 480 area, seeing those kind of tops. And then bam, down there to 370. At the end of the day here, 365. So I think that's one of the best strategies. You just kind of figure out what works for you. For me, Personally, a lot of times, I wake up at 8 in the morning, I get on the computer, I start seeing what the news is, what stocks are gapping down, what stocks are gapping up, and then I try to find my entry on those charts, I guess you could say. I'm looking for the entry, my entry. Where's the best place I can learn? You can learn the lingo for traders' words, like bullish and stuff like that. I don't know, maybe Wikipedia might have one. Maybe. Might have a little DayTrader kind of words, lingos. I don't know. Maybe it's a good video. Maybe I should make that video in the future, just kind of breaking down all the top day trading lingo. Carlos asking, is momentum is news? So momentum is just stocks that are, have volume, stocks that are moving either up or down. The last thing that you want to do is trade. So let's look at a stock. Like a stock that's just trading sideways. So MXD, it's kind of not really perfect sideways, but I don't know, something like this. So let's say INF, let's not look here, but let's say it's just kind of going sideways. There's not much momentum there. The volume's not really there. It's not really doing it for me. So when I'm looking for momentum, I'm looking for stocks that really just have momentum. They're moving, baby. Like, MTSL, perfect example, was a momentum play because, it breaks down, gets volatile, and then bam, we're moving all the way through to 320. That's the momentum we're looking for, and that's what we're trading. Can MACD and RSI be used together to confirm each other, like to know better when oversold or overbought? Now, I don't want to say that RSI is a bad indicator by any means. I think, it works in certain scenarios. But the problem for momentum trading, for these types of stocks, for like MTSL, if you're looking at the RSI on that stock, I've seen this happen so many times. There will be a stock that basically, is going to the moon. It's going, and it's overbought. It's overbought for so long that if you only traded off the RSI, you would never have an entry. And a lot of people think that if a stock is overbought, you can't buy it, that it's not a good sign. But it doesn't always mean that. I've seen stocks, like I said, that are overbought for an entire day. They never come down. The big thing for our RSI really is trying to figure out, when that momentum is changing and then kind of looking, okay, if the stock goes from overbought, it breaks to the downside, okay, that probably means we're going to turn back down and there's going to be, the pullback down to the oversold side. So instead of really thinking about a stock being overbought or oversold, we're really just thinking about where are those momentum changes, in terms of the trend. If the stock breaks, basically, if you're looking, it's hard. I don't really want to pull it up here. Maybe I can pull it up. RSI. I don't know. It doesn't work. Wait. RSI. Let's see if we can. Oh, gosh. It's really bad to look at there. This is not a good way to explain RSI. But, yeah, I don't like that at all. But like I said, the RSI, a lot of times depending on your broker, depending on your platform, the RSI normally will be like, over 70s, overbought, under, I think like 30 is going to be oversold. And there's going to be days where a stock is oversold all day long. So like XOG is going to be oversold all day. That stock is just going to be oversold for, hours. So if you're just sitting there looking at the RSI for too long, you might never get an entry. So you got to think about that. Don't be so focused on is it oversold, is it overbought, but be more focused on seeing, where are those changes at? Where did it go from, right in the middle of the RSI to being overbought? Was it a bullish move? Is it moving to the upside like that? Why don't you trade stocks above $10? I trade stocks above $10. This depends. Yes, this video will be on the channel later on. You guys can watch it again if you want. And can check it out. What does it mean when the stock is indicate or mean your halted scanner? So halted scanner basically is finding stocks that are halted in terms of momentum. They'll have news sometimes. If a stock is halted, it's basically going to pop up on the scanner there. And it'll show you, okay, the stock is halted at 441 because of news. It's not really a good example. But you'll have stocks, if you get a really kind of volatile, crazy stock, you're going to end up getting a halt on it because the NASDAQ basically just has like a circuit breaker. So when the stock becomes too volatile and you get this really just crazy price fluctuation, the stock is going to become halted, and you're going to have maybe a 5-minute or a 10-minute volatility halt. And that'll come up as a volatility halt. But for like a stock pending news, what they do is if news is coming out, a lot of times what they'll do is they'll halt the stock, because a lot of times the news can either make the stock go to the moon or it can crash down. But they want to make it fair, because if the news is coming out, they'll halt the stock in the middle of the day. And that way they'll give you like an hour or 30 minutes to kind of decipher the news. And that way, it's like a fair thing. They want to keep it fair, I guess. They want people, to be fair. Did you learn from someone else or self-taught? Really, it's just, there's been a couple people that, over the years I've kind of had some advice from. They've given me advice, pointers, stuff like that. That's the great thing about YouTube is, people have always kind of leaving comments. Not all the comments are always bad. Sometimes the comments are good. People have definitely, left some good comments for me to kind of learn from. But I think, overall, that's just kind of just putting all that together and just kind of figuring out what works best for you. If you try to just copy somebody, if you just sit there and you try to copy somebody who is trying to, have a strategy, like if you're trying to do what Ross Cameron's doing, it's going to be difficult to kind of learn, okay, and just trade exactly like Ross, because your mindset and your experience just isn't there. Ross has been trading for years, and for you to copy his, trading style right off the bat, it's going to be hard in terms of, just that style. So I think the best thing is just kind of looking at everybody and then, just learning. Is it a good time to buy Z? I'm not sure. It's a good time to buy Z. Volume. You look more than 1 million, or you watch the average of each company to see if the current volume is big for that company. Really, just for me, like I'm looking for the volume in terms of if I'm going long, like MTSL, obviously the more volume that's there, the more that the stock has buyers, because volume, means people are buying, people are selling. So the more action on it, the better chance, or the more the more it's more safe, to enter a trade when it has a lot of volume. You might get into a stock that has no volume. You buy it, and all of a sudden there's no buyers, the volume is not there, and the stock just drops on you, and nothing you can do. If there's nobody sitting there buying, where your exit is, you get screwed. So you got to be careful and make sure the volume is there. And like I said, I want to see serious volume. If I'm trading a momentum stock like XOG, and I really want to see some volume on that thing, I want to be seeing, 100,000, 200, 300,000 shares traded on the 1 minute candles. Something that's really, really hot. Let's say a stock is really, really hot. It's going, it's moving. You're getting 1 million shares traded on the 1 minute candle right there at open. That's a sign like, hey, there's some volatility here. There's some action. And that's going to be the big thing to think about. What was the biggest problem when you began trading for the first few weeks, months, year? Really, the first year that I was trading was kind of different. So when I was first started trading, I was doing more like swing trading and just kind of messing around. I wasn't doing what I do now. I wasn't losing $1,000 in a day. It was back then. It was basically, a lot of times just breaking even. I traded some of the 3x ETFs, some of the gold ETFs, nugget, dust, all that kind of stuff. I traded some of the oil ETFs back in the day. And those stocks, they're volatile. Those ETFs are volatile, but they're not as volatile as like MTSL going from $3 to $270, instantly like that. So that's one of the things when I first started, I was trading more, I don't know what you call it, more liquid or a little bit different of kind of setups and stuff like that. So over that first year, that was kind of what I was doing. I was just really more so trading, some of the bigger cap stocks. Like I'd basically just buy stocks that I thought would go higher, and it was kind of really had no plan. I really didn't know what I was doing. I wasn't trading like I'd trade now. So it was more so just buying stocks that I thought would go higher. You're talking about buying the dip before. Do you only buy the dip near an EMA, or do you use other signs to pick an entry on a dip? I think the EMA, VWAP, I really just kind of looking, where's that support? Trying to figure out a good stock here that would show, I don't know, it's InBev maybe. Where's InBev? It's not always easy to to like find stocks that you're like, oh, these are really easy to show an example. But like, let's say here on InBev, so we got this move, up here to 485. We got this drop here, and then the trend is changing. So now we got this kind of downward trend. So you got to be careful also, because it's not just like a guarantee. Just because you buy off the EMA does not mean the stock is going to just keep going higher. You can see kind of that 459 area. So really, let's say if I'm trying to buy, the breakout over that 459, and I'm like, okay, I want to see momentum coming in here. Where's my entry going to be? I want to see that previous resistance turning into support, if that makes sense. Previous resistance that turns into support is always going to be, a much safer entry in terms of just seeing the overall chart pattern. So if I can see, on the 5-minute chart, earlier in the day, 459, all day long, this thing, the previous day was the high, 459. That's solid resistance, right? So that's telling me that there's clearly something going on there in terms of just the resistance there. Now, we broke above 459. That's bullish. So now I'm like, okay, we've now broken above that previous resistance, and I want to see that previous resistance turn into support. And that's what we got kind of right here. A little bit of a dip, a little bit lower there. I think maybe the shorts are trying to pile in there. They thought they could get it back below 459, but we ended up, having the EMAs kind of lining up there and pushing it higher. You can kind of see how that little doji. A lot of times you'll see these dojis. These dojis sometimes will basically tell you, hey, the trend is changing. That candle opened and it closed at the same price. So there's a battle going on there. There's a battle between shorts and longs. So that's what we're kind of looking for. Those kind of that's what I mean. It's over time. You'll kind of just see these little things on the charts. We had this little doji right here because I think this was kind of like the stock was getting overextended right here. The bears were thinking they're going to short there. But instead, the battle was right there on that 1-minute candle. So the stock opened and it closed basically at the same price. So it's opening at 523. It dipped to 520. It pushed to 525, but it's ended up closing at that same price. So remember, these candle structures, a candle structure is if the stock is opening, the bottom of the candle is going to be where the stock opened at. Now the body, the body, not the wicks, the body. The wick is going to be the range. So like on this stock here, or on this candle here, it opened at 472, okay, which is the bottom of that candle. Once it opened, that was the low as well. It opened there and it pushed higher. It never went below 472, so there's no wick on the bottom of that candle. So obviously that's a bullish sign. That means people are stepping in there, they're trying to buy, and that's what they're looking for. And you can see it pushes up there to 5, gets a little bit of a wick, ends up closing there at 492. So that's the body. So when I'm talking about the body of the candle, the body is going to be the big fat part, and the wick is going to be these little skinny parts. Same kind of thing up here. You can see how the bottom of these candles have these big wicks here. That's not always a bad thing. Even though these candles are red, meaning there's more selling than buying, there's buyers stepping in there. So buyers are stepping in, they're pushing it back up there. It dipped down there, but it pushes right back up there. So that's a, bullish sign in terms of the stock moving higher, which ended up going up there to 520, and I think it ended up pulling back a little bit after that. Now it's kind of after hours, kind of bouncing around there. So, what's my? All right, so that's a good question. So let's say a stock goes higher than any resistance before. We call that basically a blue sky breakout, and you just have no resistance there. Now, the hard part here is trying to figure out, how high is this stock going to go? So depending on the stock, depending on how it's moving, the volume, the action, and all that fun stuff, you got to kind of, just basically take profit when you got it kind of thing. And at that point, what we're basically looking for on a blue sky breakout where there's no resistance above, the stock has never been at that price before, and it's moving higher, I'm going to be looking at whole dollar. So basically, any whole dollar as it's moving higher. So if the stock's breaking over $10, the next resistance is going to be $11. Just that whole dollar idea. Because people just get weird about whole dollars. People want to sell before whole dollars. People don't want to buy at whole dollars until it breaks over. Once it breaks over, then it's game on, because now we're breaking above that whole dollar. And then a lot of times we're looking for that whole dollar area to turn into support. I don't know if I can even find a stock right now that has a blue sky breakout, but that's kind of what we're looking for. What's my Oh, my back. Went to the gym, working. Oh, shoulders killing me. What's your criteria for any given stock? I think the biggest criteria definitely is just volume. Having volume on it. It helps if the stock has news, but we've seen plenty of stocks go up 300, 500% with no news at all. With no news at all because, the float has a small float. Obviously, a stock that has a really small float, has good news, is going to mean that the supply is low, the demand is high, and it's going to push the price higher. Remember, basically, stocks are supply and demand. So if there's more supply than there is demand, the stock's going to go lower. And if there's more demand than there is supply, the stock is going to go higher. Big thanks to Michael DTM. I don't know what he's down to monkey around. I don't know. I don't know what the DTM means, but hey, thanks for the $2 there. Are you using Bollinger Bands? I'm not using Bollinger Bands just because it's just too much, So I got the EMAs on there. I got the VWAP. And then if I start adding, I could add 1,000 indicators on there, and it would just be crazy. So if I just started adding, just go in here. I can't even get into it. If I just start adding stuff, let's just say, all right, so now I'm going to add the Bollinger Bands, the RSI, the MACD. And now look at it. I'm like, what? What? That's just too much going on there. You tell me what I should do here. Just explain to me what I should be doing here, right? Look at this thing. It looks like a first grader took a crayon and colored it all over the chart. So you got to kind of just figure out what indicators work for you. I don't even know. I couldn't even figure this out. If I was trying to trade with this, I'd be like, what is going on here? What is going on with this craziness? I mean, look at this chart now. It's just like, you wouldn't even, it'd just be too much. So you got to kind of figure out what indicators are going to be your go-to indicators, and then you just kind of, you do them, you use them. When do you cut your losses? Normally, I try to cut my losses if, the stock is not showing strength, if it's going lower. Today, I just went full on, I just went full idiot mode, and was really just kind of, I think I was also kind of like, I wanted to prove a point on MTSL. I was like, everybody in the chat was like, he's an idiot, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, oh no, I'm gonna show these assholes. I'm gonna show them. And that ended up kind of being my downfall there. I think MTSL would have, 290 should have been my stop there. Buying there at 3, I should have been out at 290, not out at 270. So it's a good lesson to learn there. Definitely, trading is not one of those things where you should, what do you call it? Try to prove a point. You're trying to prove a point over here is not a good idea. And it's funny to see. Do I trade OTC setups? I don't trade OTC setups because they're different. OTC setups, the OTC pink sheet stocks, they just move different than, a listed stock. It's really weird sometimes. Like the level 2, I did it in the past. I was trading some, little like penny stocks, but lately it's not worth it for me, and I just stay away. When figuring out resistance and support, do you look back 5 days, a month, 6 months? So really what I like to do is just look at the daily chart and, just kind of looking, because I don't need to look back much further. So if I can see here on MTSL, I can see back in July, there was a lot of resistance there in the $3 area, which is funny because I ended up buying there. But you can see a lot of resistance there in the $3 area just by looking back at July. So depending on the stock, you might have stocks that don't have any resistance, right away. So let's see if we can, I don't know if we can find one that wouldn't have like InBev is pretty recent. Maybe this stock. Look on the daily chart here. So I'm going, kind of way back here. This is going to be back in 2017. And then from there, I'm all the way back here in 2016. So depending on the stock, I'm going through and trying to find that resistance. So back in 2016, the stock had a resistance there at 963. Which ended up being resistance today. You can see. How funny is that? I don't know if it's funny, but how cool is that to see? So the stock, going back to 2016, you can't tell me that this stock did not respect that resistance because, today the stock went from $7.60 and look where it got stopped at. $9.64. I mean, damn. I mean, that's pretty spot on, you know? Look at that. We had that previous resistance. What was the high on this candle? I mean, it was right there. 9.6. That's pretty damn close. So right there is a perfect example of how this resistance to support is clearly, you know, it works. It gives you an idea. So if I'm trading this today and I'm sitting here, okay, the stock's going higher, it's going higher, but I'm looking like, hey, where's that resistance? So I'm just looking at the daily chart clearly. All right, so I see this $8 was previous resistance. I'm going to go a little bit further back here. I can see, okay, now we got some 850 resistance there. And then I guarantee here, if we look at the chart now on the 5-minute chart, the stock would have moved around those areas. So we broke through the 850 resistance there. You see a big spike. It pulls back, turns that resistance into support. We talked about earlier, when those stocks turn resistance into support, that's a really bullish sign. You know, it's a good sign. Same thing. Breaks above $8, turns $8 into support, pushes to 850. So not bad, you know. Making those moves to the upside, bouncing just by going back on the daily chart. That's why you'll see in the live streams when I pull up a chart, the first thing I do is look at the daily chart. I want to see, you know, where that stock has been recently, where it's going, and all that fun stuff. Gordy hit me with the $5. That's going to be a nice mocha frappuccino, my friend. Mocha frappuccino, Starbucks. I might go right after this stream, actually. I'm going to take a picture of it and send it to you, Gordy. Thanks for that. All right, I'm trying to keep up with the questions here. This is nice. You know, it's nice having a nice small group of people. It gets too crazy sometimes with the live streams in the morning. It's just hard, and a lot of people are asking crazy questions, and it's just hard to go through. So definitely, you know, if you have a good question, let me know. Am I cutting my losses by using my hotkeys? Yes. So basically, my hotkeys are set up so I can cut off my losses pretty quickly there. And that's what I'm doing. I'm basically hitting my hotkey to buy. I'm hitting my hotkey to sell. And I've got a couple different hotkeys. I got hotkeys set up so I can basically just dump it if I need to. I got hotkeys set up so I can sell into the bid. And I'm using those hotkeys basically in, out, and all that. Oh, gosh. Good news, trending on the day is enough to know the stock will go up. I mean, I don't know if I'd say it's enough to know. It's one of those things like, is it guaranteed? No, obviously, but it's making, you know, you're checking off the boxes. So if you're checking off the box, the stock has good news. The stock is trending higher. Overall, it's looking solid. So the more of those boxes that you can check off, the better. If a stock has no news, then you're wondering, like, you know, it's got no news. Is it just a total pump and dump? A lot of times these low float stocks, you'll get stocks that have, you know, they have no news at all. They start going higher and higher. The short squeeze becomes crazy. And then before you know it, it just gets dumped on. So like BOXL was a pretty good example of that. Just getting dumped the other day. And you can see today also getting dumped. But other day up there to 475 and then just bam, right back down there to $3. So you got to be careful. These low float stocks, you know, just because they're going higher does not mean they're always going to go higher. The Ichimoku, I can't even say the Ichimoku cloud indicator. Is it a good indicator? I honestly have never really used it. Like I said, there's 1,000 indicators out there. You can sit here all day long and you can research and try to figure out the best indicators. At the end of the day, it really just comes down to figuring out, you know, what's best for you in terms of that. What's a good number to scalp? Is scalping bad? What's your view? Well, coming from a personal, you know, from a scalper myself, which I'm trying to not be so much of a scalper, but you know, like MTSL today, that was on a good day. If we had momentum, we had volume, if it was really just like a solid market day, I think MTSL over $3 would have been an easy scalp. Now, you know, looking at it now, you're like, well, you're an idiot for buying there. But in a normal, you know, in a strong kind of in a good day, on a good day when the momentum is really there, that break over $3 really, it should have been, you know, a quick pop. We should have got 310, 320 area. And that's kind of just how it is. There's going to be days where, you know, on let's say like tomorrow, I do the same exact setup. I buy the break over $3 on a different stock, and maybe it goes to $4 from there. So it's always, it's always like hit or miss sometimes. Today, that was kind of what I was thinking. I was thinking, okay, well, let's get this break over $3. The stock's ramping up here. You can see how it kind of increased, the move here. So, the stock's it wasn't really doing much. It wasn't really doing much. A couple, 10 cents, 10 cents, 5 cents, these candles. Okay, now we're ramping up here. We get above 250, and then look at these candles from 250 to 270, 265 to 280. This candle here, 275, 293. So we're ramping up there, and it's going higher. So obviously, I was looking at it. It's overextended. So really, the 290 area would have been the better buy there. But on a good day, on any other day, I just feel like this move here on MTSL, it would have paid off. It would have paid off there. It would have paid off. But, I'm not trying to say I was right, I was wrong. But there's going to be days when a setup like this comes along and you buy right there at the break, and it just goes higher and higher. 320 to 330 should have been, on a good day, should have been kind of what happened there. Also, I think what was going against MTSL at that point also was it was already 10 o'clock. You're going to get a lot of these solid moves in the morning because you have more traders, you're going to have more volume, just more action right there in the morning. And then kind of as the day goes on, these breakouts aren't going to be as strong and aren't going to be as crazy. Why do professional day traders say that penny stocks are not real? Well, I think they're real. I think they're a real thing. I think a lot of people just are skeptical. People just hate penny stocks. They're like, oh, penny stocks are a scam, blah, blah, blah. But, yeah, it's interesting. There's always been an argument about penny stocks. What's your risk reward on average? Normally for me, my risk reward, it just varies. Obviously, 1 to 3 is kind of the ultimate risk reward in terms of, making profits. But the problem a lot of times is, let's say you get into a trade, and you're like, okay, let's say I buy here at $3 on MTSL. The stock goes to 320. All right, so now I'm up 1 to 2 if my stop is at 290. But, what do I do? Do I force myself to get the 30 cents, or do I see that the stock is slowing down at the 20s and take profit and only getting 1 to 2? So I think a lot of people sometimes will have these, ideas that they trade only off of a set defined risk. And if you get into a trade and you're like, I got to get 30 cents to make this trade a good trade, or I got to get 30 cents to hit my target, it can be kind of be weird sometimes. So I think obviously the best thing, is just kind of it's a per basis thing, I guess you could say, depending on the stock and stuff like that. But obviously, 1 to 3 is going to be a good one to have. Can I share my scanner settings? I can, actually. There's a video on the channel that'll break down. Actually, you can just download. You don't even need to do it anymore. You can just download the file, and then you can open up. Trade ideas with that file and set it up exactly like I got it. Yeah, I mean, ideally, 30, 50 cents is going to be solid in terms of, taking profit kind of thing. You'll have days where stock is just going higher and higher. You might get a full $1. You get a full $1. I feel like you get a full $1 trading. That's that's awesome. Like a what do you call it? It's a good trade. You get a solid full $1 move on a $3 or $4 stock. That's a pretty good trade. What strategy do I recommend for beginners? Dip buying or buying the breakouts? So like I said, MTSL on a good day, when it really had potential, really wanted to go, buying the breakout, it could have worked. It could have worked there. But obviously, buying the dip is going to be the safer route. Because let's say, okay, we broke above $3 here. Let's say I did not buy the breakout there. Let's just say I was like, okay, I'm not going to buy the breakout. I'm going to look for the next support. So we got that 290 bounce there. 290's bouncing. That's a solid entry in terms of, okay, we got all these little candles. We're showing support. So I think, buying there off the bounce, off the EMA would have been the much safer buy, because, if I'm getting long there at 290 and it pulls down here at 280, I'm only losing 10 cents. Now, if I'm getting long at $3 and it pulls to 280, I'm losing 20 cents. So you can see, by getting a better entry it makes it much easier to make profit. And then the same thing, if I'm buying there at 290, it pulls to 280. Okay, now it's pushing back up there to 296. I see clearly. It's funny now that I'm looking at this. It's like, what was I doing this morning? I was on a different planet, I guess. But seeing that now up there at 297, it's a little bit easier to see. Like, okay, it's not going higher. It's having resistance problems. I can get out for a little bit of profit or break even, and that's what it is. Kevin Leeds hit me with the $10. Appreciate it, my man. I appreciate it. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. Is crypto worth it? Just depends really on your time frame. I bought a bunch of Litecoin the other day at 40. I think it was 48.33. It's like at $53 right now. I don't know. We'll see. It's one of those things. I think it's all crypto. I don't want to get quoted here, but I think long term, crypto is going to be, it's going to be a big thing in the world. The problem with crypto is, I think there's a lot of people that are against it because obviously they don't want crypto to come around. You got a lot of governments, you got a lot of just people out there in the world that don't want people using cryptocurrency because they don't make money on the fees. They don't make money on, all that stuff. You got credit card companies. They don't want you paying for stuff with crypto. They want you paying for stuff with their credit cards and paying that interest and stuff like that. So I think long term, next 10 years, I don't want to be quoted here, but I'm going to say Bitcoin's going to break over $100,000 in the next 10 years. That's my time frame. I think, we get another bull market. It won't be hard to get Bitcoin up to the moon. It's going to the moon, baby. But yeah, it's hard to trade crypto right now, at least in this market. When the market's slow, crypto, it's just hard to trade those little tiny moves. What was your most profitable trade, single entry / exit? I think there's probably maybe a video on the channel. I can't really remember, to be honest with you. That's a good question. I need to go look. What is, dumb question, what is going long? Still don't get it. So if you're going long, you're betting that the stock is going to go higher because you're bullish. So if you're a long bias trader, that means you're only buying stocks looking that they're going to go higher. You're basically betting on the long term, like it's going to go higher, right? Like I'm a long bias trader. And that's kind of what that is when it comes to long. If you're a short bias trader, you'll be a short bias. You'll be long bias or short bias. Short bias is basically bears that people, believe that stocks are going to go lower. A lot of people only go short on low caps, on the small caps. There's a lot of guys out there that all they do is basically short stocks like MTSL. They would never even think about going long. They would sit there all day long and they'd wait and they'd wait and they'd wait, and then bam, they'd crush it. I mean, honestly, if you can get shares short on these types of stocks, that might be the best opportunity. But for us, today there was no shares to short. And that's going to be the problem too, is it's really hard to find shares to short on some of these low float stocks. Depending on your broker, if you have a really I think like Centerpoint, it's a lot easier to find shares with Centerpoint, but depending on your broker, your account size, when you're first starting out, it's really hard to find shares to short. What do you consider overextended? So let's look here. Trying to find a good example for that. Oh, JONE, perfect example. Perfect example here. Pretty easy to see here for you guys. All right, so let's just look. Maybe on 5-minute chart would be easier. On the 5-minute chart, if you look at this chart right here, it's not as easy to pull it up there, but oh my gosh. Come on. Where is it? All right. So if you look at this chart, you can basically see what's overextended. All right, so the stock is trending higher. It's trending higher. It's looking good. It's bouncing off the support. And then what happens? It gets overextended. So the support, is down here at the 340s. The stock spikes to 396. So it's up almost, 60 cents higher than where the support is. So now we're saying, hey, this stock is overextended. And there's a good chance it's going to reverse and pull back down to the support area, which it ended up doing. So that's what you got to be careful with and kind of understanding, if a stock is overextended, there's a good chance it's going to pull back. When I say in a pullback, I'm saying it's going to pull back to the support areas. So that 350 area was the previous kind of resistance. It pulls back, kind of finding some support there. I think the low was that 353 there. So if this stock was strong, if it really wanted to go higher, that dip buy there, looking for that move back up to high of day over $4, could have been the buy. But like I said earlier, that's a big drop. That's, just not a good drop in terms of the overall move there. If this would have consolidated there for a little bit, if it would have held that 350, kind of consolidated and showed us that there was buyers stepping in, that the volume was going to come in there, that's the move we're looking for. And you can see how it kind of just reversed and went lower. And also, once we're breaking through these support areas, we're breaking through the VWAP, we're breaking through all the EMAs, again, what are we looking for? We're looking for the idea the stock's going to go lower, which also is always a good indicator too. So let's say you're going short here, right? You're going short. Where are you going to be shorting at here on this stock? It breaks through the VWAP. It finds a little bit of support. You got a little bit of support kind of down here in the 310s. But now the EMAs, the moving averages, are now acting as a resistance because the stock is not getting back above those moving averages. So you can see here, bouncing up there, hitting those moving averages, but then just pulling back down there, 280 now. So if I'm going short, I'm usually looking to short into those moving averages, those resistance areas. All right, I'm going to wrap this up pretty soon. Answer one more question. I've got Brandon Douglas here. My buddy sold weed in high school and now has over 400 Bitcoin. It's huge in the community. He firmly believes in it and that it serves a purpose. I think at the end of the day, Bitcoin will end up turning into basically like a digital gold. People basically, they want to buy things that are going to fight inflation. If you just have cash in your bank account, if you got $1 million in the bank today and you held that $1 million in the bank, earning a little bit of interest for the next 10 years, that $1 million is losing its buying power every single year. So 20 years from now, that $1 million, maybe, 20 years ago, it could buy a house. But 20 years from now, that same $1 million that you own in the bank is not going to be able to buy a house anymore. So you got to kind of always be thinking about how are you going to fight inflation? That's one of the reasons that, people buy the stock markets. People invest in the stock market because they basically are just trying to fight inflation. At the end of the day, the stock market really is just a place for rich people to fight inflation. I know that sounds crazy, but that's really what it is. The stock market is a vehicle for rich people to fight inflation. Do you recommend trading in the morning or the afternoon? I think the morning obviously is going to be, the game time. People are going to be trading. There's more traders. There's more volume. There's more action right out of the gates. It's going to be more volatile, but if the action is there, you have a stock that's going higher, it's going to be much stronger in the morning. Buying the dip in the morning is going to be much safer than buying the dip in the afternoon, because once these stocks just kind of lose their momentum, once they kind of lose the buyers and people just kind of stop trading them, well, what happens? JONE down there at 280 now. So you can see, look at that. I mean, that was right about 11 o'clock. So all morning long, bam, 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 this thing's going higher. And now it's pulling back. So it's good to definitely try to trade that first hour. A lot of times what I used to do is I would only trade the first hour. And today, I ended up buying a stock at 10 o'clock, which I normally would never really do back in the day. Was it? I think it was later than 10 o'clock. What time did I buy MTSL? What time did I buy it? Yeah, so 10 o'clock. I bought it right at 10 o'clock. But normally, a rule for me is if I don't make a trade in that first hour, it's probably a bad sign. There's just not that much opportunity. And ended up paying the price today, breaking the rules. Do you ever average a trade if the initial entry broke resistance? Not normally. Normally, I'm all in there. I'm all in there. So what I'll do for you guys, for everybody who's watching, all the members who are watching the channel, I want to give you guys, if you have never used Trade Ideas, this is a great opportunity for you guys. I'm going to give away a month of Trade Ideas. So you can basically download Trade Ideas. You can use it for a month for free. No strings attached. I think you just have to maybe sign up a little bit. You got to create an account. But once they have your account, they're going to hit you up with a free month of Trade Ideas. So that's a $200 value. I want to give that value back to you guys. So what we'll do to make this easy and make it fair for everybody is, it's going to be hard, but I want to make it easy first off, you need to be a member of the channel. And then second, what you need to do is once this video is done, once this video is like finished processing, it'll end up being on the channel. So this video will pop up on the channel once it's done. Once we're done streaming, it'll be on the channel. So leave a comment on that video just saying like, let's just have you guys comment, just comment day trading is fun. Day trading is fun. So if you're a member of the channel and you're watching the live stream right now, there you go. And I'll make sure I'll do a random, they have a random comment picker, and just comment day trading is fun, and you'll leave a comment on this video once it's on the channel, if that makes sense. Don't comment it right now. Wait for the channel, wait for this video to go on the channel, and then once you comment that, we'll do the giveaway. So big thanks to all you guys for supporting the channel. I know people were giving me a lot of shit for the whole membership thing, but I think it's a cool thing. I think it really gives value to you, to people who really want to learn. You know, this was a good hour of just talking and questions. Everybody was active, and there's nobody really bringing any kind of bad juju, you know, to the stream. So that's always fun, and I appreciate everybody out there supporting. And we'll do this some more. And I'll see you guys. I'm gonna do one more live stream tomorrow morning. Friday, I'm going fishing, so I won't be trading on Friday. But like I said, I want to hook you guys up. I want to support the people that are supporting me. And like I said before, it's not about the money. If I really wanted to make a lot of money, I could just start a chat room and I could charge $100 a month and then have people, you know, in there for $100 a month. So at the end of the day, if I really was over here just trying to make money, I would just do that instead of trying to charge $5 a month. It's not even that I'm charging $5 a month. It's literally the YouTube, you know, that's just how it is. Twitch has been doing this for a long time, and I think it's a pretty cool opportunity. Like I said, we'll have more giveaways and stuff in the future. And one of the things I'm also working on is I'm trying to figure out ways, you know, like I said, to give that value back to you guys. So I think maybe in the future I can talk to Trade Ideas as well. So if you are a Trade Idea subscriber and you're a member of the channel, I can probably get them to give you like a $10 or $15 discount. So you're basically getting free stuff here. You know, you pay $5, then you get a $15 discount on your Trade Idea. So I'm doing things, I'm working for you guys, and I'm going to figure out ways to make sure that everybody who's supporting me is getting the best bang for the buck. I promise you, at the end of the day, that $5 is going to be worth a lot more money in terms of, you know, just what it is. And then, yeah, I got to give away some Hit the Bid shirts as well. We'll figure out, we'll do the next time we do a stream, we'll do a little Hit the Bid t-shirt giveaway. I still got a bunch of them. I got to give them away and get that all shipped out there. So big thanks. Looks like Rich Boy 3050 coming in there the last final minute. And Rich Boy, make sure you comment on this video once it's on the channel. It'll be on the channel probably in like the next hour, maybe tonight. It doesn't matter if you're the first person to comment. It's going to be all random anyway, so it'll be a random comment picker. So just leave that comment that day trading is fun. Leave that comment. You'll be entered to win the Trade Ideas giveaway there. And what's up, Cap D? What's up? I like it. Big thanks, like I said, all you guys for supporting the channel, for watching the videos, and, you know, bringing some positivity. I needed this. After this morning, I felt pretty defeated. Not to be honest. You know, I got 1,000 people watching me lose money on YouTube. It's a roller coaster. It's a roller coaster ride, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. So I'm gonna go ahead and close it out there. I'll talk to you guys later on. If you haven't already, well, you guys already have done it, so I don't need to even say it. But like I said, big thanks. Talk to you guys later.